let my ops see the envy me. Passing it off like CP3. Shawty, she calling me MVP. I be on time, it's something you ain't never seen before. They call me the Dama, really want my whole team to score. Damn, yeah, too icy, yeah, too clean, yeah, my zone, yeah, 2-3, yeah, got shooters that hit from deep, bust like Giannis, yeah, too mean. Bright lights like we at the garden, on P, don't get me started. Whole team walk in, we the party. If I can't make the play, I'ma lob it. If you jump, that's right on your head. Had to put him to sleep, go to bed. I'm a star, drop 50 and left. From the logo, like I'm Steph. Put it up, knock him down every time. Going hard like my life on the line. Catch me on the course, I would've dime. Never losing, I put it on mine. Had to get out my shell, I've been laying low. They get real when it comes to the playoffs. They fight with me, going to KO.
Ladies and gentlemen, from La Casa de los Lobos, the Pit, here at the University of New Mexico, let's get ready to rumble!
Hitting you with the triple hey. My name's Ryan Tamori. Welcome to the Pit Press Live. It's Wednesday, August 14th, and we are well less than
2 weeks
away from UNM football, 10 days away. Tonight, busy show. Before I get to my panel or the usual suspects, we're going to talk about Eddie Nunez and the possibility of the UNM athletic director, possibility of leaving to Houston. I wanted to get Ed Nunez's thoughts on that, not to be confused with UNM's Eddie Nunez. Ed, I'm sorry, I get that joke all the time. All right, tonight, jam-packed show. Before we get to it, I want to thank one of our sponsors, Hydro Bar, Affordable Solar, Turquoise Desert Tap Room. We will be at Turquoise Desert Tap Room next Thursday. Season ticket giveaway, 2 tickets to UNM football, all 5 games. Looking forward to that. Love Armando there. Go make a bet on baseball. Don't bet what I bet at Santa Ana Star Casino and Hotel. Head on over there. It's hop, skip, and jump away on 528. You can watch your bet win, unlike mine, at Turquoise Desert Tap Room. We're looking forward to that. Very excited. Also want to thank Affordable Services, Affordable Service Heating, Plumbing, and Air Conditioning for your HVAC needs in the Albuquerque and Rio Rancho area. They've been in business in New Mexico for more than 35 years. During that time, they have served more than 40,000 customers, providing complete residential and light commercial HVAC services, including heating and cooling, electrical, as well as plumbing. They take pride in their staff, in their commitment to our community, and in creating satisfied customers with every project. Don't forget to comment, YouTube, Twitter. Give us a follow on X, or the artist formerly known as Twitter. Go to our Instagram at the Pit Press NM. Tell us how much you love Rick. Tell me how much you want me to eat shit and die. Email us at thepitpress@gmail.com. Looking forward to today's episode. I'm going to run down the guests before I get to the usual suspects or the gang. At about 8:15, Andrew's college football tour at college_FB_tour, or you can follow him at go to his website, collegefootballtour.com. I am very envious and jealous of this guy, if those are the same things. Andrew Bauhs. It rhymes with House. I'm sorry. I hope I got that right. I know he's joined us. Andrew Bauhs. He can correct me, as I always mention on my radio show. How can I get this UFC fighter's name wrong, mispronounced today? He's on a mission to experience game day at all 134 FBS stadiums. He has created and running the college football tour since 2004. And he is the creator of Andrew's College Football Tour. He'll be visiting Albuquerque and University Stadium on August 24th, and that is when UNM kicks off their season in their home opener against Montana State University. I'm excited to talk to him. I guess he's been to UNM, but I don't think he's seen a game there. We'll get a straight answer from him then. Again, that's roughly about 8:15. Little after 8:30, met this guy in Vegas. Love him. Mountain West Conference Football Media Days. Super funny guy. He's the host of SGPN, or the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, and you can catch him on the College Football Experience and the College Basketball Experience. Colby Dant. Looking forward to him. And at 9 o'clock, I got to cue it up, Rick, even though it's ripped off of, where is it? Even though it's ripped from Notre Dame. That is the St. Pius X fight song. Head coach of the Sartans, Curtis Flakes. He played at UNM from 2000 to 2004, was a DB and a wide receiver. And he played 2 years under Bronco Mendenhall. So very excited to talk to him. Had to drop the Notre Dame / St. Pius fight song. All right, to the crew, or excuse me, the gang, the usual suspects that join us. Eric couldn't join us tonight. Nick Nunez will be joining us to talk to Curtis Flakes. He'll be joining his dad, Mr. Ed Nunez. But I've got to get to the panel and get some quick reaction from Ed on what he thought about the possibility of Eddie Nunez leaving. But first, he is a two-time offensive state lineman for the St. Pius Sartans under San Juan Mendoza. Played under Damian Segura and an MVP of a 35-year-old men's Filipino rec league in the Bay Area. Rick Thompson. Rick, how you doing tonight?
Gentlemen, you're looking good, Ed. I like the haircut. Ryan, you're looking spry as well. Happy to talk to the guests we got on tonight. We had a great show last night for anybody that missed it with Mr. Wysong, Ben Wysong on, and of course, Mr. Artesia himself, Cole McCamey stopped by. So two great interviews, and then Ryan topped it off with another one. So check that one out. But I'm happy to be here, guys. Let's get it moving.
And he's the voice of the Western New Mexico Mustangs, a Lobo fan since 1970, Mr. Ed Nunez. Ed, how you doing?
Doing good, Ryan. Looking forward to being on the show, and always good to be on with you guys talking Lobo athletics.
All right, so I learned today that before I get to Ed Nunez on Eddie Nunez, that for years, Lobo football press conferences, fall press conferences used to be on Tuesdays. They are now moving till Monday. Going to make this quick because the communications director just informed us on Wednesday, and it makes me want to scream like Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder. All right, so I'm going to you, Ed. You heard the news about Eddie Nunez, the possibility of going to the University of Houston as the athletic director. What are your thoughts? I wanted to get your reaction before we got to our guests.
He's been a finalist for a couple of jobs in the past couple of years. I think at Miami, or a couple other schools, and he stayed. And he's been here since 2017. Came from LSU, was it? Yeah, he came from LSU. I think Eddie's done a heck of a good job here. I do. There's still work to be done, and some of the things he didn't work out. Paul Weir didn't work out. Danny Gonzalez didn't work out. There's some things that some hires he made that didn't work out. Mike Bradbury's done a good job at the Lobo women's program, and some people would say that, hey, he's got a lot of players that transferred out, but he also had, he was able to recruit more players, and the roster looks pretty good. The jury's out on Bronco Mendenhall, but I think that's a good hire on paper. I think that's going to work out. I hope so anyway. But I think that we need to take a deeper look into Lobo athletics, golf, tennis, cross country, the GPA. I think those things have definitely improved since Eddie's been here. I think that we've talked about the facility, the football facility at UNM, and I know that he definitely wants to improve that. They've got to win. They've got to win some games. There's work to be done still. I would hate to see him go, to be honest with you. I would really hate to see him go. I think they've got some good momentum there with him. He's young, dynamic. I think he does a good job. I really like him. I really do. And I think he's got a lot of support here from the community. But I got to say this too, though, that if he doesn't take this job, there'll be another suitor calling in another year or two again, depending on the success here that he's had with the, I didn't even mention Coach Pitino. I thought that was a pretty solid hire.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah. When he brought in Richard Pitino, I thought that was a pretty solid hire. I really did. And, got him in from Minnesota right after they fired him and really moved quick on that one. And, Coach Pitino, the Lobos won the WAC tournament and got into the tournament. First time since 2014. A lot of expectations coming into this season. We'll see. But the attendance back at the pit, it's back. People are packing the pit again. He would love to see that University Stadium packed. He would love that. But I got to say this, that if he leaves, I like Eddie. I think he's done a good job. I really do. So I hope he doesn't, but sometimes greener pastures call, and maybe he thinks that's a better job. It made it sound like the newspaper article made it sound like he's a finalist. It's almost like a done deal, but I didn't see anything today in the paper about it, or I didn't hear anything else. So we'll see. But like I said, from my standpoint, I think Eddie's done a good job.
I think he's done a good job as well. And as much as I bash the UNM athletic department and my alma mater, I always forget about the kindness displayed to my son Aiden and my mom. We all decided to go last year to the fall game for UNM, the final practice. And I was on the sideline, and my mom and Aiden had walked up to the stands, and Eddie had invited Aiden down and was throwing a ball to him and had the players. And I always forget about that. So I have to take a step back from whatever Paul Krebs was to that. And I have appreciated Eddie. Once again, you cannot blame him when you hear the bigger schools calling. I really don't blame him. Rick, I wanted to get your thoughts before we hit a commercial break.
Sure. I mean, I'm in agreement with you guys on the successes he's had at UNM's. When he got hired, UNM was in some treacherous waters as far as the legal situations they were in with the accounting and finance problems that were left behind by the previous people. And, he's also moved into this NIL world and guided UNM into it fairly smoothly. We don't see what's going on behind the scenes, but from the outside, it looks like everything has worked pretty smoothly. And I've heard him speak about it on the radio. They're getting prepared for whatever the NIL world or college world has to throw at us next, right? That's why they've developed this new NIL department within UNM. They're planning for the future. And he's a guy that always seems to be prepared and getting his employees ready to make the next move. And along with you, my mother and father went to a game, and he was, there shaking hands. My dad said he couldn't be a nicer host there at the pit. So I have nothing bad to say about him, but I probably do expect him to move on with the news that the associate athletic director that was on the show a few weeks ago, Ryan Berryman, is moving on to the University of Washington, if I'm not mistaken. So he might have known something, right, and wanted to move on before the bigger stone had turned, is what some of us may think. But on the other hand, maybe Nunez is happy here, and we'll continue to see what he has planned.
No, that's cool to hear. I mean, Paul Krebs, I think, became dealing with Paul Krebs at the Daily Lobo 15, 16 years ago. He blocked our friend, my dear friend, Isaac Avalusea's number. And we had a 2-call policy where we called him for comment. And if we didn't get an answer after he called him and I called him, we just put that he had no comment in the paper, especially during the Loxley days, because we were doing a lot of that. Ed, you will rejoin us at 9:00. Looking forward to talking to St. Pius X head football coach, and former UNM defensive back and wide receiver Curtis Flakes. Nick will be joining us. Looking forward to that. I appreciate you jumping on early and giving some thoughts on Eddie Nunez.
You bet.
Later, Ed.
All right, perfect. We'll talk to you later.
You guys.
Quick commercial break, and we will be quick commercial break, and we'll be back with Andrew Bauhs of Andrew's College Football Tour. Looking forward to talking to him. My name is Ryan Tamori, and this is the Pit Press Live. along with Sir Richard Thompson.
Richard.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
All right, welcome back to the Pit Press Live. My name is Ryan Tamori. I'm joined by Ricky Tiki Tavi, aka Big Rick Thompson. Now, and then I want to mention I want to play the commercial again. It's every Saturday morning. We just started it. Our morning dedicated UNM football pregame show. The Morning Howl, Saturday mornings, 9 a.m. We'll do it again this weekend. And then obviously the 22nd. But I want to bring in our next guest, who is, you can find him on Twitter, Andrew's College Football Tour, or at college_FB Tour, collegefootballtour.com. His name is Andrew Bauhs. Andrew, thank you for joining us. How you doing? I'm sorry I messed up your name.
No, you didn't mess up my name at all. Hey, it's good to be with the Pit Press Live. Thanks for the invitation.
Hey, no, it's a pleasure to meet you. I am a massive college football fan, and I am very jealous of what you have done. And I was perusing finally. I was on your Twitter page, then I saw you had a website, and I finally perused it. I commend you for what you have done. How did you end up just touring college football stadiums? And you've been doing it 20 damn years.
I have been doing it 20 years. I'm not saying I'm the OG, but I've been around a bit. It started with I grew up a Wisconsin Badger, and right at the time when they were turning their program around in the early 90s, and to see that stadium kind of morph into this incredible, exuberant place just got me hooked. And when I became a UW Badger and started going to school there, I started to follow the team on the road. And when I graduated, I started to realize I kind of was accumulating a few stadiums, and it got me thinking, a lot of people have done the MLB stadiums. Has anybody done the college football stadiums? And I found that there had been a few that had done it or had been on the process, but I really wanted to get on there and do it by really focusing on the traditions and the pageantry and the culture that makes every place special. So because that's what hooked me at Wisconsin, I wanted to show that everywhere I went.
Were you there when the jump around tradition started? And I'm not trying to age you.
No, I was there on October 10, 1998, when Drew Brees and Purdue came in and we jumped around and I was there. I was a sophomore in college then. So I remember it. And I remember it catching on mostly.
How would you rank that as one of the best traditions in all of college football, at least in the last 30, 40 years?
Yeah, and I was just a good addition there, because in the past 30, 40 years, I'd put it higher. As far as a long-standing tradition, at Wisconsin, there are other traditions I actually like better. The fifth quarter is a post-game band concert that happens. Everyone stays at least 50% of the stadium or so, and they dance and they polka and they do a lot of Midwestern weird things. But that's
at Camp
you know,
that's at Camp Randall.
correct. That's at Camp Randall. Yeah. So the jump around's amazing though. Don't get me wrong. The energy, there's nothing that brings more energy in Camp Randall than that between the third and fourth quarters. So it's hard to miss, and people stay there for it regardless of the score.
Have you been to a Badger Rose Bowl, i.e. like the late 90s under Barry Alvarez?
Yeah, I went to the first one, January 1, 1994, when they beat UCLA. And then I went back in 2000 when Ron Dane won the Heisman that year and they beat Stanford. And then I went back in 2011 when they lost to TCU, but we're not going to talk about that.
I saw that TCU team play as they were on their way to that Rose Bowl. Andy Dalton and crew and Gary Patterson, and Gary Patterson's got UNM connects, which they decided to go with Rocky Long instead of Gary Patterson. He was under Dennis Franchione. And I didn't cover that game, but I saw Andy Dalton. It was like the play of the year for the Lobos. I saw the Andy Dalton got sacked and his arm went up and he sat out the rest of the game. So it could have cost TCU that game. But my next go ahead.
Oh, no, all I was going to say is, we had J.J. Watt on that side. We thought we were going to be great. But honestly, walking out of that stadium that day, TCU, those fans, they deserve it. TCU they didn't get the limelight like that at that time. Now they get it a little bit more, but it was okay. It was easier to lose against a team that hadn't had that kind of experience before.
It's funny you mentioned Ron Dane, because the New York Football Giants fan, Thunder and Lightning going into 2001.
Yeah.
Does he ever go? And then his career kind of spiraled, and I think he ended up in Houston. But for that 2000 year with Tiki Barber, I loved him. But does he go back to Madison a lot? Does he? What kind of former UW, University of Wisconsin, Madison football alum is he?
Yeah, he still lives in the area up there in Madison. I'm in Chicago, so I go up to Badger games a lot. It's only 2 hours away. But he still lives in the area. He still comes to a couple games a year. I bumped into him a couple of times. So he's present for sure, and he loves it there. A lot of people love Madison, and he's a tribute to that for sure.
So I have to I name drop him a little bit more on here than I should. But Jim Rome sent one of his kids to Wisconsin. I think it's Logan Rome, which he calls Rogan Loam. But I think he's the one that went to Wisconsin. Then the other one went to Colorado. So go figure. But he always praises how fantastic of a town Madison is. I kind of looked at going there. My grades weren't good enough, but in high school. But I've always heard good things about Madison. It's on the list. I've been to a few college stadiums, and maybe I'll start here with the SEC, because if I could redo my entire life, I would go to UT Knoxville. Have you been to Neyland, and what was that experience like?
Yeah, no, Tennessee is phenomenal. I look at the town, I look at the traditions, and they've got those both. Knoxville is such a great, vibrant place, and beautiful at that. And that stadium, it's iconic, Neyland Stadium, and they did some updates to it. I went recently, and it is one of those places that is the essence of college football. You've got Rocky Top, which a lot of people are annoyed with, but that kind of thing is what makes it the stadium come alive. And Tennessee is just iconic and worth a visit. Game day or not, worth a visit.
I was there in the middle of January, and it was incredible. This is a cliche question, but what is I'm going to say, well, now it's Power 4, but what was the best Power 5 football stadium venue game day you've been to? I haven't been there. I'm going to probably throw Ole Miss with the Walk of Champions, or the Grove, excuse me. But what is your best? What's top notch? What's top billing?
Well, so into Ole Miss, if anybody were to ask me what's the best tailgating, that would be the Grove at Ole Miss, which the Walk of Champions walks through. Two fantastic traditions, by the way. But I have a rolling top 10, and I do that to save my own butt, because if I say one team is the best, I will just get destroyed. So I have a rolling top 10. And so I'm in no particular order. I'm just going to throw out a couple quick ones at you, okay? So Texas A&M, LSU, Nebraska, Penn State, Washington, Army, Wisconsin, of course. Those are some that I didn't mention 10, but those are some that have really left an impression on me. And there are definitely more. It isn't limited to that. But I can expand upon any of those or talk about any others that you'd like.
Andrew, nice to meet you. My name's Ricky. I was lucky enough about 5 to 7 years ago to go to Tallahassee and go to Doak S. Campbell Stadium to see a Florida State versus BC game. And I had never been in an environment like that. I was kind of scared, to tell you the truth, because I didn't know all the hand signals and appropriate chants, and me and my wife and friend kind of stood out. Have you been there, one? And two, what other environments like that have you been to that feels so intimidating? Because I mean, if I was a player walking in there, it is scary, man. when you see 80,000 people doing the tomahawk chop at you, it doesn't feel too good.
That's a great question. Yes, I was there for Florida at Florida State just a couple of years ago. I actually got to be on the field as Chief Osceola came charging out right past me with a flaming spear. That made me wet myself just a little. The tomahawk chop.
He's our kind of guy.
Yeah. It's iconic. I have a video on my Instagram that really embodies that experience. So yes, that I've been there. It's powerful. Others that are like it, I brought up Texas A&M for a reason. They have so many choreographed chants that make you feel out of place if you haven't been there. And probably one of the most thrilling and unexpected traditions in college football is the midnight yell practice at Texas A&M. Literally at midnight the night before, the stadium will fill 50, 60,000. It's a 110,000 seat stadium, but it fills up halfway at midnight, mind you. And they just simply practice screaming and yelling for a half hour. And it's a party and it's phenomenal. And so that's intimidating. I'd say Penn State on a whiteout night, that will leave you shaken.
My mom went to Penn State many moons ago, and she's trying to get me to go back. So that's on the bucket list. Continue,
absolutely.
Sorry.
No, those are three that I would say that pop off the top of my head. If I think of others as we go along, I'll throw them out there. But those are three that definitely shake the bleachers.
I didn't, once again, was not there during game day, but I took a tour of West Point about 5, 6, 7 years ago at Mitchie Stadium. Mm-hmm. The way that campus sits on the Hudson, and if you're somebody like me who's a U.S. history nerd, that I don't know what game day is like there, but the way that football stadium sits at West Point, and you have to check in and you go to the gift shop and the I think it was like a museum. I have an Army shirt. Colorado Springs is amazing. I've seen the Lobos play at Air Force. This was many moons ago. So my question to you is, can you elaborate on game day experience at Army at West Point? And I'm going to gather you've been to Annapolis and Colorado Springs, and what were those game day experiences like? And actually, and I'm sorry that you're our guest, I was at Air Force for homecoming. So they flew, everything was, it was awesome. And this was like 1997, 1998. And my mom, I get the love of college football from my mom, but we were in the stadium like 2 hours early. And it was it was planes from World War II. It was new planes. It was gliders. It was jets. And that's the entire pregame, even with the teams warming up on the field, was just airplane after airplane. And they were celebrating. And it was former airmen who were flying the plane. It was awesome. If you can ever do that, I've had from Mountain West Wire, Sean O'Toole on here, and he covers Air Force from Pennsylvania. And I think he went to Penn State, but I was like, you need to go for homecoming. And I'll let you elaborate on that, but I knew about the Texas A&M traditions, but after the Appalachian State game 2 years ago, I diving into YouTube and articles about the Texas, more so learning more about it, and I'm the pump it, and I think it's cultish and funny, but I'm sure to be there is something completely different. But I'm sorry for that long-winded rant. I'll throw it to the military academies and let you answer that question.
Yeah, all three of them are special for reasons you just mentioned. I mean, you can't go wrong. They all have a march on, which is you got to get there early. You know, that is really the key to any stadium you go to. You got to get there early if you want to feel it. College football is not something you walk in, you know, when the bell's ringing. Air Force, I went back and I was at 2004. I actually lived in Denver for a year, and it was everything I really hoped it would be. It was a packed stadium. They were playing Cal that day, and it was you know, it was really one of my. I actually credit Air Force with being the first place I went to once I had the idea to start doing this tour. So Air Force has a special place in my heart for that reason. I went to Annapolis then in 2011. Same thing, you know, everything from the march on to which Navy does it so well, to flyovers. You know, they all do it, and the experience there was phenomenal. Went to Army last year, and of the three, I'd have to give that one the nod. I went there last year. See, Army has some incredible traditions, but the weather did not cooperate. It was an absolute monsoon. It canceled so many of the things that I wanted to see. They have a parachute drop in to bring in the ball. They have, of course, the march on. They have a pregame, like 2 hours prior to. They do a huge parade, a military parade. All these things were canceled. The mascot didn't even come out. I was so upset. So I know, but it's okay though, because I had a free weekend towards the end of the year, and I just flew out there by myself. I got to know the Army people really well. They brought me on the sidelines. They brought me to the press box. They took such good care of me. It was a gorgeous day at the end of November, and it was just. I got everything came into place. So I went twice last year because I did not want my Army experience to be soiled by the weather. And I'm really glad I went back. And, you know, I'm telling you, though, even with the weather, I would have been able to tell you that it was one of the best. The setting is gorgeous. And there's something magical about those grounds that's different. You can really feel the history. It's palpable in the air. And I mean, and everyone is so respectful and phenomenal. The fans are fantastic and loyal. It is the essence of college football. It's a throwback. And I think that's part of the reason why I like it. There's a lot of throwback there to another time, another era that, you know, that I hope that college football holds on to as we rapidly accelerate towards a different future.
I wholeheartedly agree with you there. I have made more peace with conference realignment than I thought I would have. You would have talked to me in my early 20s, like 15, 16 years ago, and I would have been like, this sucks. But I still think Ohio State and like what the Pac-12 was last year and how good it was, it pains me this year to see what it has become. But I just love college football so much. It's okay. Before I knock out some Mountain West Conference teams and then your experiences at how you came to finally come to Albuquerque and I think finally see a game, and I'll ask that question later. Is there any mid-major that you've been to that? And I finally got to Boise State. I was on the blue turf last year. It was like, I don't know. It was an unbelievable experience. But is there any mid-major that you've been to? You're like, that's the one to go to.
Appalachian State. Not going to hesitate. Appalachian State is you know, amongst their fan base and that university and that setting. You know, Boone is a special place to me. My spouse went to Appalachian State, so we go often. And you know, name my dog Boone. My other dog's Madison, so you know, figure that one out. But Appalachian State hits every mark, and you know, could be easily thrown in my rolling top 10. I liked Coastal Carolina. And there's a few I haven't been to yet. I haven't been to Boise State, so I don't want, I'm at 108 stadiums. New Mexico will be 109. So there's a few out there I still haven't hit yet, but so I can't speak to some of them. But yeah, no, Appalachian State hits first in my mind. I really enjoyed Coastal. And UCF was awesome when it was a mid-major. There are reasons why some of these places that I would say were fantastic have moved up. Is because they proved themselves worthy to do so. And I wouldn't be surprised if Appalachian State moves up at some point in the next few years.
I recommend Boise. I really do. It was an unbelievable experience. The campus is beautiful. I had a buddy that I work with, my full-time job, Stephen Dubois. I'm going to hit you with Trick Daddy.
What's up? Shut up.
Sorry for that. I had a buddy of mine that lives in Boise, and I went up there last year for the UNM Boise State game. And he picked me up from the airport, and we were driving off, and he pulled up in front of the campus, and he goes, I will never forget what he said. The first thing he said was, Chris Peterson built all of this.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty awesome. So UNM is 109.
Correct.
And why did you choose UNM this year, this game, this time? Why that?
Well, a lot of it has to do with timing. I mean, week 0 works great. It's great for college football tourists like us. There's a small community of us out there, and we're all kind of connected, and we talk about where we're all going and stuff, and support each other. Actually, I'm going with one of my buddies that weekend too. His name is Brett Gibbons. He has Road to CFB. He's fantastic. So we're going to be going together. But week 0 thing really, really helped. They're playing a fantastic FCS team, so that I think the matchup is going to be a lot of fun. I'm a little nervous about a 2:00 kickoff in August, but weather-wise, I'm a Chicago, and we get heat out here, but not like that. But it fell into place. I honestly been looking forward to it because I did stop by the campus in 2018. When I was there for week 0 in Las Cruces. So I was visiting some friends in Santa Fe, and on our way down to Las Cruces, we stopped in Albuquerque and checked it all out. And so, I said, we're coming, we'll be back here, and this is it.
You asked me about, I'm going to name drop somebody here on Twitter, at Louis T. ABQ. He goes by Red Sombrero. He wears a big red sombrero. He always tailgates early. You asked me about tailgating, and I can send you his Twitter handle. He will be there at 6 a.m. on August 24th. I guess how closely do you, obviously you follow college football closely. My question to you is, what do you know about UNM? How do you think they'll be this year? And what did you think of the Bronco Mendenhall hire? So I'm going to hit you with the triple question there.
Bronco Mendenhall is a home run hire. It just is. Look at his record. It's fantastic. So that's really exciting. I know that New Mexico has had some up and downs. I watched carefully the whole Bob Davie years. He had that one great year where things were going well. But as far as how they've been lately, I know, there's just the ups and downs in general. Well, you had a third question. You said, what do I know? I'll tell you one thing I know. Brian Urlacher. I know that. I'm a Chicago. I'm not a huge NFL fan, but we're, here in Chicago, Urlacher's face is everywhere because he's got all those hair ads,
I was just going to say, with or without the hair plugs.
Yeah, no, with. So he's everywhere here. But honestly, my whole thing, I go and I focus on the traditions and the pageantry and the culture that makes a place great. I'll be covering the Lobo Walk. I'll be covering the mascots. I'll be covering the tailgating. I'll be following the band. recording the fight song, making you feel like you're there on a game day. The X's and O's, not always my game. I'll pay attention to it for sure. And I do an article about the game itself, and so I'll follow up and I'll type up a little something about that. But my major article is the one about the game day experience from a fan's perspective. But I can definitely tell you, having watched Bronco Mendenhall's work from the stands, that that's a phenomenal hire. And I mean, how could you go wrong?
Rick, do you have any questions? And then we might tackle some game day experience with you to help you out.
Good.
I'm not trying to hate on the game day experience at New Mexico, but let's just say it's not like some of the other schools you've been mentioning earlier in the show. What are some of the schools you've went to where it was maybe like the deadest crowd or the lowest turnout over the years?
Yeah, I have a couple of those. And before I answer that question, I'll tell you something. My goal is to make sure that if New Mexico fans jump onto my site, they're not going to see this place was terrible, this place was this place was that. I focus on every place is special. Every single place you go to has something special to pull out. I'm going to focus on that. That's where my lens goes. I don't say I'm not a reviewer of the bad. So I focus on what makes New Mexico fans proud. And when they read that article and they watch my videos, they're going to be excited and be very happy with what I come away with. However, that being said, there are places where it's harder to do that. And where you have to really zoom in on the crowd so as to avoid the 50,000 empty bleachers. A couple of those places like Rice, for example, they have that beautiful, beautiful, iconic stadium down there that gets, I don't know, 1/10 full if they're lucky. Eastern Michigan has had its ups and downs. And listen, I love going to these places and I love celebrating. Rice has one of the greatest bands I've ever seen. Eastern Michigan, they have that fun gray field and they knock down that cinder block walls. They come out and they have, maybe a little gimmicky, but there's a fan base there and they love it. And Ypsilanti's a great town, but those are a couple places where I have to work a little harder to ensure that I am pulling away the best of that university, because I want to make sure that anybody who hops on is proud of what they see and read.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah.
I can say Lobo football under the Rocky Long days. And I'm sure I can speak to some of our listeners. The stadium was packed and you maybe needed to probably renovate it. And they did the north end zone. And I know we had spoken off air, off record, and that you've applied for a credential. I pray that you get it so I can, and hit me up when you're here in a week and a half. Because you asked me, hey, what's great about the stadium and everything. And I know you're not focused on the Nave. And I was like, oh boy. Because ever since I was there for the Mike Locksley years, and I talk about it a lot on this show. It was like an asteroid hitting Earth. He completely destroyed that program. Completely. And Bob Davey, and I was a part of it. Bob Davey resurrected the program a little bit, but I don't know, there wasn't a draw. And I don't know how much you watch college basketball. You should come to a game here, and I do defend that.
Get to the pit.
I will say this. Yeah, the pit. Yeah. And what I would recommend is if you get into the press box, I had to think about it when you asked me that question. It is one of the best views maybe in all of college football, because at least from the press box, you're on the west side and you're looking west and you're hitting our mountain range, which is the Sandia. So I hope you appreciate that. I don't think you'll see anything like that. And that might be probably the cap on your review. Turning the tables, what do you know about Montana State? And have you ever been, I know you do FBS, but have you ever seen anything in Missoula or Bozeman?
I have not. I have not been to the state of Montana, and I have not explored a lot of the FCS. I think when I'm done with my tour, I'm going to hit some of the top ones in Montana. Both of the ones you mentioned are going to be ones that would be places that I'd have to go, places that I would assume at some point too would want to move up. I don't know. if you want to be a big fish in a small pond or what, but which they might like that. But I have not. I do know. Do you know? I'm going to quiz you. You ready? When was the last time Montana State played New Mexico?
I would have to look in the media.
Oh, well, I'll be happy.
I would
to
have
help.
to look in the media. I would have to look in the media guide. That is a very good question. I would gather it's got to be maybe in the 60s or 70s when they were in another conference, because I think they played together in the same conference. And that, to my history knowledge, which I love, I don't know the answer to that. So please tell me.
Well, I got to give my credit to my friend Brett Gibbons at Road to CFB. Is the 1947 Harbor Bowl, the 13-13 tie. 13-13 tie. And before that, they played them in 1923 to a 34-7 loss. So let's get out there and make it a 1-1-1 record.
All right, I like it.
I appreciate that. Before I let you go, try to talk as much Albuquerque and University Stadium as I could. Maybe you might be allowed to go into the pit if you walk over there to the Lobo Club. Maybe just say, hey, I'd like to see the pit, or hit me up and we'll just, I'm saying this on record, we'll just walk right in there. But best bowl game you've been to, and I'm going to tell you a very quick story, is because my mom went to, on January 1st, 1993, and I had the pleasure of meeting Lincoln Kennedy, who was on those teams. Washington, Michigan, Elvis Gerback, Mark Bunnell, and she was on the 50-yard line because a friend of hers lived in Seattle and moved from Albuquerque when my parents moved here. So I have always
38-31
my
Michigan.
bucket. Michigan, yes, yeah. And I think denied Washington another national title, I believe.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
Yeah, but says it was one of the greatest experiences of her life. So thanks, Mom. But I have always wanted to go there. It is number one on my bucket list, is to go to a Rose Bowl, and I have not go. And every year I say I'm going to go, and I don't do it. But what would you say is the best bowl game experience? I'm going to gather it's probably the Rose Bowl. I think maybe the Pop-Tarts Bowl has been put on that list after all of that last year. But best bowl game experience, and if you've been to the Rose Bowl, which it sounds like you have, what is that like in Pasadena?
The Rose Bowl is the best. I don't know that anything can ever beat it. It is college football on steroids. It's history like you wouldn't believe. It has, when I talked about throwback with Army, that's what the Rose Bowl is. It's a throwback. And it makes you feel like you walked into the 1920s, 1930s. And despite all the modern advancements, the Rose Bowl has a feeling that words will never, ever be able to be written accurately about the Rose Bowl. You have to walk in, you have to see it. And maybe the best thing is between about the third and the fourth quarter, when the sun begins to reflect off the San Gabriel Mountains, and the colors are the most vibrant of anything I've ever seen. That's worth the price of admission right there. But all the pomp and circumstance beforehand, it is America's game. It is fantastic.
That is a very good answer. Kirk Herbstreit every year talks about when the sun's setting late or early there in the fourth quarter, and the mountains turn in, kind of like what the Sandias do here. It kind of turns like a purplish on the San Gabriel Mountains. That's awesome. Well, Andrew, I appreciate your time. It's Andrew Bauhs, College Football Tour. You can follow him at college_FB Tour. I am looking forward to meeting you. I will hunt you down the day of the game here in a week and in 10 days. And we appreciate your time and your insight. I am a huge college football fan. Everything you say and reign true. And for somebody who's been there, you have maybe kind of wanted me to, instead of doing the MLB ballparks, I fight with that every year. Am I going to do MLB ballparks, or am I going to do college football stadiums? And you maybe have motivated me to steer clear of MLB, because I've seen a lot of MLB ballparks. But I appreciate your time. It was very nice to meet you. And Rick, I didn't ask you if you had anything left to ask him.
No, just looking forward to having you in Albuquerque, Andrew. Enjoy your trip, man. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, and hey, tell me text me your T-shirt sizes. I'll send you one of these college football tour T-shirts. I'll bring one out to Albuquerque for you both.
All
I
right.
appreciate it. We really appreciate it. I will hit you up.
Appreciate
He is
you.
Andrew Bauhs of again, looking forward to meeting you. He is Andrew Bauhs of College Football Tour. I was excited to talk to him. We will take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be back in about 10 minutes. Have Curtis Flakes, SPX, St. Pius X football coach and former UNM defensive back Nick and Ed Nunez will be joining us. I think I had a mix-up with Colby Dant of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. We were supposed to have him on at 8:30. I'll see if I can't get him pushed back or on to tomorrow night, but we'll take a quick commercial break. I'll get Rick's quick thoughts about that because I thought it was awesome. I love college football, so to listen to him talk was really awesome. So we'll be right back.
Our head coach of our local football program, Bronco Mental.
The details themselves with the right preparation can separate you from mediocre competitors that don't do that. And so, yeah, the attention to detail, I think, drives the execution, or should I say brings the execution to life, especially in critical moments.
Shawty, she calling me MVP. I be on time, it's something you ain't never seen before. They call me the Dama, really want my whole team to score. Damn, yeah, too icy, yeah, too clean, yeah, my zone, yeah, 2-3, yeah, got shooters that hit from deep, bust like Giannis, yeah, too mean. Bright lights like we at the garden, on P, don't get me started. Whole team walk, give me the party. If I can't make the play, I'ma lob it. If you jump, that's right on your head. Had to put him to sleep, go to bed. I'm a star, drop 50 and left. From the logo, like I'm Steph. Put it up, knock him down every time. Going hard like my life on the line. Catch me on the course, I would've down. Never losing, I put it on mine. Had to get on my shit, I've been laying low. They get real when it comes to the playoffs. They fight with me, no one's a KO.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Welcome back to the Pit Press Live, or the show that talks about everybody else. Jesus. All right. Rick, what do you think about Andrew?
I thought it was good, man. I appreciated his insight into the other stadiums and learning about the other good ones out there that we should check out. You know, I've been lucky enough to go to a game at the U of A with you many years ago, and then a Florida State home game, like I was mentioning. And, yes, college football is a special environment, especially in those big schools, man. So glad he's coming to Albuquerque to check it out and see what his thoughts are about the town and about the campus. What did you think of it?
Oh, I mean, it was awesome. You know, I haven't seen a lot of game. I've been privileged growing up to see a lot of games, baseball games at a lot of older stadiums, Shea, New City. You know, we went to New Yankee Stadium that year, saw the Phillies play. I mean, a ballpark in Arlington, I can name, it's like 20. And I was very privileged under a bad situation when my dad was sick when I was younger. That's how we traveled the country. I've been in Gainesville. I've been to Benny Hill Griffin Stadium. Blacksburg, I was outside of it. I didn't go to games there, but I saw it. I was outside Oklahoma Stadium, which I always forget the name of. Flew by Texas. Gosh, what's the name of that stadium? Doak Royal. Saw that landing in Austin when I was going to a wedding. I've been outside the Rose Bowl. I've been to Sun Devil Stadium, which I think is pretty cool because it's a little bit older. I thought he was awesome, man. I'm into that kind of stuff. And I am going to call it Stephen DuBois again. The guy is coming here for his 109th game to University Stadium. We saw it on Twitter. That's why we asked him to come on. So it still pertained to UNM, but I wanted to hear about all the other stadiums he's been to because he's been to 108 stadiums out of 134. And I love college football. So I wanted to get his thoughts on all the stadiums he had been to. And he asked me some questions about University Stadium, and I was very happy to have him on. So, holy moly, I can't believe that. Sorry, Rick. Coming up in about 3, 4, 5 minutes, Curtis Flakes, head coach of St. Pius X Sartans, and he played football at UNM, so it applies to the show. Rick, I wanted to play this for you, and I was going to do it as not question of the night, answer of the night, since we've had back-to-back guests the last 2 nights. But this was one of the answers on Jeopardy that I overheard tonight. That was from like a few weeks ago, but I wanted to play it for you.
TNTV for 400.
From 1993 to 2001, Chuck Norris was Walker this.
I had to do it for you. So the
What
answer
is
was
Texas Ranger?
Yes, it is. We love that show. I'm going to bring in Ed Nunez as we wait for Curtis Flakes and Nick Nunez. Ed, welcome back. How you doing?
Good interview. That was interesting stuff there. Learned a little bit. I liked his breakdown about what he said about Coach Mendenhall. Thought that was a home run hire. So I think the same thing, but we're about to find out 10 days away. Can't believe how quick it's coming. And, I don't know what the weather forecast is for August 24th at 2 p.m. I would think it's going to be 90 or 90, 95 and above, I would think. So we'll see.
And Ed, being the high school aficionado that you are, what other big stadium, are there any big high school football stadiums that you've been to that have, you've enjoyed being at outside of Albuquerque?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Rick. I didn't get to go to Artesia, man. Bulldog Bowl a couple years ago. I really wanted to do the that championship, and I missed out on that. But it was down at Kirtland Central. Oh, my son and I take that back. We covered Portales in Lovington, the championship up at Eastern New Mexico football stadium this past December. My son was my color commentator. And I'm going to tell you one thing: for his first football game, he knocked it out, man. He was also my director. I was really proud of him. But I got to say one thing, Rick, that, when I looked at the Eastern New Mexico Stadium and I'm the voice at Western, it made me realize how much our facilities at Western lack, and it's kind of, I hate to even say anything bad about Western at all because I love it there, and I'm a Mustang when I'm there. But that stadium at Eastern New Mexico is pretty nice. And that's probably, I just wanted to get a chance to, Rick, hell, man, you know about Bulldog Bowl, man. I mean, you travel into, Artesia, and they've got, 30 championships. I covered the 2016 championship when Pius beat them for the championship. And I remember going down on the field before the game and the swag that Artesia had, just that swag, even going through drills like they expected to win. And that day, Pius, led by Drew Ortiz, the quarterback, beat them. Drew Ortiz had a remarkable game, and So anyway, that's probably the best stadium I've seen was Greyhound Stadium up there at Eastern New Mexico for high school. So one day I hope to get down to Bulldog Bowl and see that stadium.
I am going to say, when that was San Juan Mendoza's last game as the head coach of Pius, I think some of us alumni who were also like inebriated, we were probably more excited than the players. Us class of 2005 guys, we had a great time. Nick Nunez is joining the show. Nick, how you doing?
Good evening, guys. Ryan, Rick, Dad, good to be on with you. I enjoyed the last guest. And Rick, in answer to your question about good high school football stadiums, I think you've been down to Bulldog Bowl. I recently got to go down to Bulldog Bowl. I was coming back from a work trip from Carlsbad. Anyone who's familiar with New Mexico geography knows Artesia's right down there by Carlsbad. So I just took the opportunity to go check it out. I didn't get to go inside the stadium, but I got to drive around it. By far the nicest high school football stadium I've seen. I mean, it looks like it's a facility in Texas. I have been to Hutchinson Stadium up in Farmington. Both Pedro Vista and Farmington play at Hutchinson Stadium. I was there 2 years ago for the 5A state championship. It was Pedro Vista versus Artesia. Artesia won. I think it was one of those weird high school football rules where the lower seed hosted, or the higher seed hosted a playoff game last time. So the game ended up being in Farmington. And then, I did go to Eastern New Mexico with my dad. We had Lovington and Portales. That was a pretty good game. Good facility. The nicest facility in Albuquerque, I would say, I think you'd agree, Dad, is a community stadium recently built on the west side of Albuquerque. Super nice, super modern, well lit. Last year I was there for opening week. It was El Dorado and Cibola. There was a 2-hour rain delay, so we didn't get the game going. But there's definitely some good facilities around the state. Bulldog Bowl, definitely the most legendary for sure.
I think that the New Mexico, I'm going to get in trouble here, the NMAA and their seating for football is the stupidest shit I've ever heard. I don't understand it. I never will. I don't understand. I don't understand how that works out. But anyway, I want to turn it over to Ed Nunez and Nick Nunez, and Rick and I are going to stay on because, the three of us are St. Pius alumni, and I'm going to bring on head coach of the St. Pius X Spartans and former UNM defensive back and wide receiver. His name is Mr. Curtis Flakes. He is on the show, and let me see if I can bring him on. I'm trying to produce at the same time, and I'm absolutely terrible at it, but we'll do that there. And again, I'm going to hit you with what Pius stole from Notre Dame. So Coach Flakes, you've got Pius alumni here and a two-time offensive state lineman in Rick Thompson, who is under San Juan Mendoza. But I will throw it over to Nick and Ed Nunez. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me.
Hey, Coach, good to see you. Son, go ahead. You open it up.
Sure, Coach Flakes. It's nice to see you. Thank you again for joining us. We wanted to talk to you a little bit about St. Pius, the season you guys got coming up. I think you guys open up with West Mesa on August 23rd or August 24th, Coach. So wishing you the best of luck. Before we got into that, though, Coach, we wanted to bring you on to have you talk about UNM football. We know you played defensive back, wide receiver for UNM from 2001 to 2004. You were recruited out of Texas. You got to play a couple years under head coach Bronco Mendenhall. You were at the press conference when he was introduced. There's a photograph of you in the Albuquerque Journal of you two shaking hands. Talk about what your thoughts are on the hire of Coach Mendenhall.
For me, I think it was a great hire for the program, for the state of New Mexico in general. Coach Mendenhall, starting out early here and venturing off to BYU, Virginia, and then coming full circle and returning back to New Mexico with what he has produced on his resume and now bringing it to our Lobos. I think it was a great hire, and I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see what he brings and what this team looks like in the future.
I'm going to give you one more question, Coach, then I'll turn it over to my dad. But you played for Coach Mendenhall, I think maybe your first 2 years at UNM. Coach Mendenhall was the defensive coordinator under Rocky Long. Talk about your experience playing for Coach Mendenhall.
And I've said this since, the the beginning of time, right, with Coach Mendenhall is he was the best coach that I've ever played for. You know, playing a defensive back and having him be able to coach me directly, and just the influence that he had on us as young men was just one that I'll never forget. And you know, these guys are lucky. The guys that are in the program are lucky that they'll be able to you know, play under his tutelage, and you know, just a great coach, man.
Dad, I'll turn it over to you.
You know, Coach, one of the things that people have said about Coach Mendenhall, and you're in the Sergeants, as my son mentioned, and opened it up against West Mesa, your former, you know, very good friend Landrick Brody on August 24th. We had Coach Brody on. You know, a lot of people talk about the attention to detail with Coach Mendenhall. He's trying to change a culture here. Can you mention the, you know, Landrick Brody mentioned when he played, starters were fighting again on the kickoff return team, and that's before the kickoff return, kickoff rules have changed since then. It was kamikaze, go down 100 miles an hour, get hit, and hit. Talk a little bit about the attention to detail. You're coaching at St. Pius. You've coached at Albuquerque High. Talk a little bit about the attention to detail that you saw there with Coach Mendenhall.
Yeah, you know, Coach, going into it with Coach Mendenhall, you know, obviously with Rocky Long there as well, they made sure that we were prepared for any opponent that we were going to go compete against that week. So with Coach Mendenhall, he really broke down the X's and O's and explained them to them in a manner that we truly understood, not just what we were doing, but what everyone on the field was doing, from our teammates to the opposing teams, from formations, motions, and we truly understood what we were doing, and we were seeing it before it even happened. So his attention to detail and to break down from the opposing opponent's stance to firing off the ball and what that meant was just something that, you know, obviously coming from high school in Texas, right? You think you know it all and you see it all, but then being under his tutelage and what he taught us to make sure you pay attention to those minor things was just something that elevated our defense to unprecedented levels, where we were, you know, ranked in the country defensively. And a lot of it had to do with, you know, him and Coach Long, but definitely him and his motivational ways and how he impacted us.
You know, Coach, I'll tell you something. It's quite a combination he and Coach Long made. I don't think there's any question Coach Long is the best football coach New Mexico's ever had. And, you know, Coach Mendenhall went and had success at other places. And you mentioned the confidence that the defense had. But because, you know, we had Ian Clark on, and Ian Clark mentioned how tough Rocky's defense was to learn. You know, and he had a lot of guys, he said, that helped him out, Gabriel Fulbright being one of them. But yeah, answer me this, Coach. Now, again, you're getting your Sartans ready, and you got to be excited. You know, that's football. My son and I cover high school football for ProView Networks. We had your game last year when you played Highland, and this is your second year here. But how much difference can Coach? You mentioned firing off the line of scrimmage, attention to detail. New Mexico is one of the most penalized teams in the nation. Might have been the most penalized team, I think.
Yeah.
Don't get me started.
Yeah. Now, how much difference does that make as far as attention to detail? You mentioned firing off the ball, both lines of scrimmage. How much, you know, again, it's a tough schedule for Coach Mendenhall in his first year.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. How much difference do you think a coach like him can make in wins and losses?
I mean, huge. You know, anytime you talk about penalties and how they impact the game, and with UNM being last in the nation last year, first in the nation in penalties, and what Coach Mendenhall will bring with that attention to detail, we're definitely going to see significant improvements in regards to that. And that's going to help elevate and allow the scoreboard to come in our favor a lot more than not. So, I know for a fact that, you know, everything's going to be on point when it comes to that. And also, to me, it's more like, you know, when you talk about penalties, and a lot of it comes from, you know, lack of effort on plays and guys trying to shortcut it. And I know with Coach Mendenhall, it's only one way to do it, and that's the right way to do it. And so I know he's going to have these young men firing on all cylinders, and also having a sense of pride and not conducting penalties. So we're going to see significant improvements in that regard for sure.
So it's you've got confidence that he can turn turn things around here. And you played at a time when New Mexico had fans in the stands. People may have forgotten that. I know Ryan was there and Rick was there. My son and I, when my son was just a young man at that time, and we didn't miss a game, man. We were out there, tailgating, doing whatever. So you think the Coach Mendenhall can definitely come here and change that culture?
Yeah, I don't think I know. That's. I mean, you look at his track record, right? What he did at BYU to going to Virginia and doing the exact same thing. And Virginia is known for their academics, and he was able to put them on a national spotlight on the football field. So there's no doubt in my mind that UNM did a great job by bringing him in and him coming here and doing what he do, and that's be a great coach.
Yeah, Coach, I love it, baby. You don't think you know. I like that. I like that. Rick, Ryan, you guys got anything?
Coach, nice to meet you. My name is Ricky Thompson. I did play at St. Pius back in the days, and when I played there, we ran mostly run plays, single wing tee, lots of fullback traps, counters, sweeps, very little passing. Can you tell us a little bit, what your offense is going to look like without giving it away? And can you also hit on maybe how many guys are coming out? Because I was just reading maybe the first year you took over, it sounds like the numbers were up from previous years, and just how the program's looking going into the season.
Yeah, so in regards to what we're running, I would just suggest come out August 24th at 11 a.m. and come check us out versus West Mesa and West 6. I'm pretty sure my brother Landrick is watching, right? But no, so we so
I loved him. He was great.
Yeah, we're bringing a lot back. So last year we were a very young team. A lot of people don't realize last year we started 7 freshmen and an 8th grader on offense and 6 sophomores on defense. And so the numbers were up last year. We had 82 guys in the program. We had 11 seniors this year coming into it. Right now we have 76 guys in the program, and only 6 of those guys are seniors. So we're still very young. We're excited about the group that we got coming up, and it's gonna be exciting times for some starting football for sure.
Can I West Texas you on this one? When you gonna you're gonna kill me? When are you gonna win state? No, I'm just joking with you. I'm excited that you're the head coach there. Again, Rick and I are 05. I had to bring this out. And have you ever met Coach San Juan Mendoza?
No, I have not yet.
Oh, okay. Well, so I didn't play football, and us guys who didn't letter got to play in what was called the Dingle Bowl or the Ray G Bowl. I don't know if they still do it. And this January will be 20 years since the first time the seniors won the game. But we were able to beat him as the guys who didn't play football, and we beat him on Ray G Field. You play your games at Community Stadium. Do you consider that kind of, I know there were talks, and I don't think you were at Pius yet, about making game day experience there on Coors Field, like building a stadium. Did you ever hear anything about that? I think you play your home games at Community Stadium. Do you kind of consider that like a home field advantage? I don't know if that's a great question, but do you consider that like a home field advantage for you?
Yeah, I mean, we do, right? It's right there on the west side, about 5 minutes away from campus. And so right now for us, that is our home base. As you guys probably know, with alumni, they're in the process of working out there. They have the plans drawn out for a stadium there on campus. That's going to be a beautiful stadium that they're working on, man. I'm excited about that. And hopefully, we get more alumni coming in and supporting, and we'll get that going here shortly. So, but right now, yeah, community is home.
Coach, back in our day, we did used to play the homecoming game there on the field, so maybe you can get them to do that again this year. It's a pretty special atmosphere out there. But I was just wondering, how did you, like your journey to becoming a coach, what kind of tools did you take from your old coach's toolbox, and what are you able to apply at the high school level?
Yeah, so throughout my year, and I was started with my playing in high school. So I was able to play throughout my career to be coached by some legendary coaches. So Coach John Outlaw, who is considered one of the best coaches in Texas football, period, and in Oklahoma, Arkansas, sorry. He coached me and taught me a lot about the game. So I went to the same high school as guys like Jermichael Finley, Dez Bryant, Polk, who's playing for the New England Patriots right now. So there's a tradition there. And so playing under that, and then coming to college and being fortunate enough to play for Coach Mendenhall, and just all the things that he instilled in me and taught me. Of course, those things carried over early on in coaching. I was blessed to be work with who I consider the top high school football coach here in New Mexico, Aaron Ocampo. And so he just opened up my mind and allowed me to transition from that player mindset to like, yeah, this is being a player, but this is how you coach the game and how you take what you've learned along that journey and instill it and pass it on to others. And so he was instrumental in developing me in that. And, I was blessed with the opportunity to be a head coach at Albuquerque High for a couple of years and help turn that program around. And then recently, coming back and being at St. Pius, definitely full circle and able to take all those things and culminate them into one piece and one project. So I'm excited to be here and, do what I do.
Well, we're excited to have a coach of your caliber at Pius, man. We're really, really pumped to have you. So good luck. I'll let these guys take over here.
Coach, had another question for you. Looking at your roster, you mentioned you started 7 freshmen last year. Looking at your roster, those guys are sophomores now. One of them, your son, Curtis Flakes III, wide receiver, defensive back. Another guy who had a big game against Highland last year, had over 100 yards and a couple touchdowns, Herschel Alloway Jr.
Yep.
Number 5, Cale Cox Liggins. Definitely heard his name last year. And then the quarterback, Isaiah Carpenter, also a sophomore this year. All those guys coming back. Talk about what leadership roles you see those kids having for this season.
Yeah, I mean, to watch those guys and how they've matured since last year, right? Last year, I think they approach where we're athletic. Let's just go out here and play football, right? But this year, I've watched them develop into young men and program guys where they realize that it's not just about them and their athletic ability. It's about the whole group. It's about the team. And that, we're only as strong as person 99 on the roster. So, watching them mature in that aspect has truly been one of those things you sit back and obviously, coaching your son and watch him, you have those dad moments. You're like, man, I'm proud of this kid. I'm seeing him grind every day. I'm seeing him pick up his teammates and carry them along with him, along with the rest of the crew that you named. So it's been one of those things where I'm truly blessed with this opportunity to not just work with him, but all the young men that are at that school and in that program.
Coach, wanted to ask you about your time as the head coach of Albuquerque High. Yeah. You were the head coach there from 2014 to 2016. You were known for instilling work ethic and getting the numbers back up in that program. But one of the things that you accomplished, it's pretty well known. Albuquerque High was on a 43-game losing streak in your first season. At the time, it was the longest losing streak, I think, in the state.
Yeah.
And your year, 2014, I think you guys beat Highland and snapped that losing streak. Talk about what you learned as a head coach, being able to accomplish that.
Oh man, learned a lot. I learned a lot that year. Both the years I was there, going into that particular situation with them having the state longest lose streak. As of course, a lot of you guys may know that I was going through a lot in my life as well. I was in a near fatal motorcycle accident, then I had cancer, and I didn't think I had a chance to get the job. Well, no, I take that back. I knew the job was mine, right? I prayed on it, and when I went to Albuquerque High, I literally walked into the front office, and I gave Mr. McCorkle, who was the principal at the time, I gave him a packet, and I shook his hand. I said, "Hey, I'm Curtis Flakes. I'm going to be your next head coach." And I didn't know that he said in that moment, he knew I was his guy. And so, I was able to, identify other coaches and put a great group of coaches around the group of kids that we had. And that was just like one of those experiences that, I'll never forget. We built a lot. We sacrificed a lot of time, both the players and coaches, and we believed in each other. And we became a process-driven team. And, the results took care of themselves. We actually placed second in district that year. and it was pretty awesome.
Dad, I'll turn it to you.
Ryan, I know you got to wrap this up, but Coach Flakes, thanks so much, for joining us tonight. One quick question I have for you: you're going against Landrick Brody. You coached with him at West Mesa as a defensive coordinator.
Yep.
What kind of friendship do you still have? I know you're not talking too much now. You don't want to show your hands. Be there August 24th, baby. I heard what you said.
Sir.
But
Yes, sir.
talk a little bit about what kind of game that should be.
No, it'll be a fun game. Landrick and I, we're like family. So his kids, I'm his sons and daughters' goddad, and he's my kids' goddad. And so we talk every day, and we're always on the phone with each other. But it's a weird relationship in the sense of, like, we do still talk to each other about coaches and personnel issues that we having, and we go in depth about it. Because to me, it's like, at the end of the day, we show up on Saturday. We're gonna compete against each other. And at the end of the game, we're going to shake each other's hands, and it's going to be back to being a family again, like right away. So it's one of those things where, Landrick he's been there in the good part and the bad part of my life, and I've been there same for him. So, we're blood is thicker than water. And so we're going to go out and put on a show and try to get a bunch of alumni out there to support, Lobo versus Lobo. And, funny things on the exact same day as UNM first home game. So we getting a couple guys flying in, like Josh Bazinet and Terrell Golden. All those guys come to the game, and then after the game, leave and head to watch UNM play. So we're going to try to make it an event and, put on the show.
Good luck, Coach.
All right, thank you.
We are doing a Saturday morning show, UNM pregame football show at 9. When we are over with that, I live on Lunsor and Ladera. I am speeding my ass over to Community Stadium. I'm so excited for that game. I am very excited for you. We were talking shit to Cole McCamey last night because he came on our show. So it was the whole Artesia thing. And you've obviously played with him, but it is Curtis Franks II. He's the head coach at SPX. We really appreciate your time, Coach. Best of luck this year. Maybe we can get you on down the stretch during the season to talk some Lobo and Sarton football, but I really appreciate your time tonight.
No, thank you. And thank you guys for what you do, man. Really appreciate it. And I love you guys' platform, man. You guys are doing great.
Thank you, Coach. Hold it down for the West Side for us.
You would
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you would have probably never known we went to St. Pius, but hey, we turned out all right. That was Curtis Flakes, head coach at St. Pius X High School. Appreciate you. I'm going to take a quick commercial break, and I'm super excited to talk to our next guest too. It is Colby Dant from the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. And quick commercial break. My name is Ryan Tamori. This is the Pit Press Live, if I can produce and talk at the same time.
Our head coach of our Lobo football program, Bronco Mandel.
The details themselves with the right preparation can separate you from mediocre competitors that don't do that. And so, the attention to detail, I think, drives the execution, or should I say brings the execution to life, especially in critical moments.
Yeah,
I love all the work. I love all the work Eric does, but I didn't know if Nick was staying on or not there. I love all the work Eric does, but that wolf sounds like he's dying. My name is Ryan Tamori. Welcome back to the Pit Press Live. I'm very happy to have this next guest on. His name is Colby Dant from the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. You can catch him on the College Football Experience and the College Basketball Experience. I met him in Vegas at Mountain West Conference Football Media Days. Our tables were across from each other. And from the moment I started talking to this guy, I loved his sense of humor. Colby, thanks for joining the Pit Press Live. How are you tonight, man?
I am fantastic, and I love catching some high school talk beforehand. I live like a block or two here. I live in Los Angeles, but I have they still play high school. They're trying to get rid of it. They still play high school football here, I feel like. But, I was watching the band practice the fight song yesterday. So it's love catching the segment before with the high school football angle, and, glad to be here. Appreciate you having me.
I didn't mean to make you wait. I'm sorry about that. I fucked up the I got the two times
good.
crossed.
It's all good, man.
And that's that's my alma. That's where I went to high school. You would have never known. And then my buddy Rick, who always joins us, was a two-time offensive state lineman when we were there. So much appreciated. Can you tell my listeners here in the Duke City what the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is? And then I'll ask you how you found yourself into this industry, because I thought it was a fascinating story.
The Sports Gambling Podcast and general and the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. There's kind of two different things here. We have the Sports Gambling Podcast, which is a show that is on, it's a podcast and on YouTube, but also a show that's nationally televised on VSiN every Friday night, where we talk pretty much all sports and gamble on that. The Sports Gambling Podcast Network is our hub for all of the stuff we do. We have, I think somewhere right around 74 employees. And we have about, I think right now, I'm just going to roughly say around 30 or so podcasts going, and all of them come out via the network. But we also, have a website, sportsgamblingpodcast.com, or the SGPN app, where everything. I mean, we got people that cover sports that I don't even know, you know what I mean? Like, they're doing the lacrosse or stuff like that. But, for our main feed, the Sports Gambling Podcast, we cover, every single like major sport. And I host the college football experience and college basketball experience, and I'm a part of the Sports Gambling Podcast as well. So, my heart is in college sports, but we cover it all, if that makes sense.
That's probably why we hit it off. Can you elaborate on why you love college sports so much?
Purist, high school or college is to me, but I feel like college is a little more pure because of the athlete is better. Like, but I love high school football too, but, it's just the purest form. You get the bands, the traditions, the way, and they invented the sport, especially, for football and basketball. That was the first platform that they ever played the sport on. So its roots, its soul is still intact somewhat, even though, you see the NIL and everything going crazy. There's still nothing like, you go to I get offered, I get free Laker and Clipper tickets, and not, no disrespect. If you like the NBA, that's your own cup of tea, but like, I'll go to the games and it's like an Instagram party. It's corporate America through and through. And it's like you go to you're like, oh, did you see that dunk? And it's like person's on their phone just saying, oh, I'm at the Laker game. You're not even there for the right reasons, in my opinion. Whereas like college, you go to wherever, you know what I mean? You go to wherever in college basketball or college football, really anything. But if you find the right ones, like the Pit for a New Mexico basketball game or something like that, then you're home. This is the way it's supposed to be, in my opinion. And to me, that's what I love about the college game, whether we're talking football, basketball, or baseball, is it's just the home environments, the band, the fact that I think what saves the game a lot too is that the players graduate. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like if you stayed there for 15 years, which I feel like some of these guys though, on these rosters that we preview this year have been there 15 years with this crazy COVID stuff. But, I think that helps save the game a little bit. Not that I'm saying like, I still watch the NFL like anybody else, but sometimes it's hard to justify a $500 million contract. You know what I mean? For any human being on planet Earth, let alone sports.
Somebody was trying to tell me how much Patrick Mahomes was worth it. And I was like, well, and this is the old cynical asshole in me. I was like, did he cure cancer? I don't know. He's a phenomenal quarterback. And I'm like, did he cure cancer though? As I've gotten older, and I feel that way, I'm going to harass you with text messages. I'm going to try to drag your ass out here to see a game at the Pit under this Patino era, because you will absolutely love it. And I've got a New York Football Giants tattoo on my body, and it was a bet that I /won/lost. And I lived and died with the Giants. And as I've gotten older, and 2 years ago, if you would have told me they would have been in the divisional round, I was like, all right. And then they lost to the Eagles, who I used to hate. I'm like, yeah, all right, cool. It is what it is. I got what I guess in my younger years, I saw 2 runs, and I'm happy for the rest of my life. But I feel you. It's like, I don't know. The NFL is whatever. It's still the king. I will still bet this year. I will still watch. But I don't know. Last year and the last 2 years, Saturday mornings, I can't wait for college football and college basketball to start. So I feel you there, man. And I think that's why I really enjoy. I sound like, I'm going to crack jokes and make fun of myself, like man crush on you, because Hey, I had a blast talking to you, man, in Vegas. When we were at Mountain West Conference Football Media Days, what you kind of took away from the coaches that you met there and who you had to talk to? I'm really high on UNLV. If I had to do I don't really care about polls, but just for content and gimmick shit on our Saturday morning shows, I'm going to release my top 25. I'm going to give it away a little bit now. I'm really high on UNLV, what Barry Odom's done there. I know they've got a little bit of a quarterback. They're trying to figure out between Matt Sulka and Williams, the kid. I keep forgetting his name. I've got it written down. But,
Haj Malik Williams. Yeah.
Haj Malik Williams.
Yeah.
Haj Malik Williams. But I'm super high on them. But what did you take away from Mountain West Conference Football Media Days? And I'll ask what else you did in Vegas if you got to any of the other media days, and if you went to Coug Beaver night.
Well, first, the things that I took away, I came into it really bullish on Fresno State. Sat down with Jeff Tedford, and like 72 hours later, he was retired. So that was like, oh, and that kind of changed. Look, I still think their roster is very good. I still think the schedule breaks nice for them, but at the same time, you can't tell me you're going to feel as confident in taking Fresno State to win potentially win the Mountain West when, no disrespect to Tim Skipper. He might be a great head coach. We haven't seen it. I remember when he played at Fresno, but you can't tell me you feel as good. Jeff Tedford's been a very good coach for a long time, back to his OC days at Oregon in the 90s, or his OC days at Fresno with Jim Sweeney. So that was the first thing. I was like bummed out. I mean, I quickly put that episode out. I saw the news. I was hanging on to that to release for like 2 weeks later. I saw that news. I was like, oh shit, let me get that out right now. But I came away, surprised in some, like I thought, Timmy Chang was very confident about his Hawaii team's capabilities this season, which I was impressed by. Every coach is going to give you coach speak. What's that?
And I don't even mean to interrupt you. I got the pleasure to talk to Timmy Chang last year. I was joking with him. I don't think he remembered it, but he was last year. He was talking about, he's like, oh man, I'm Samson. I used to have the power in my hair, and then he shaved. And then I was watching his playing days, and I was like, oh shit, he did have a flow. But I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to interrupt you there. He is awesome.
No, you're good. No, and I would say like I came away a little bit higher on the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors after that. I mean, I had interviewed June Jones about a couple weeks before that, and he was telling me that he's like, and I've interviewed Coach Jones a while for like the past 5 or 6 years, and most years he's not that. Some of those years he wasn't that bullish, but he's like, this year this team could be good. And another one that I would say was, I thought Colorado State seemed very cool and relaxed more than the previous seasons. So I don't know what to that could just mean whatever, but I thought they seemed to have a confidence and an aura about them that perhaps they didn't have when I had met with, I was at Mountain West Media Days the year prior as well. And I interviewed Coach Norvell then, and he seemed to be, I thought he was more comfortable and more relaxed and more confident this year than other years.
When he was talking to the newspaper reporters and the TV, everybody flocked over here, and we don't have to talk about their reasons. I've got September 14th. I'm assuming College Game Day is going to be there. I'm sure you have it circled. That might be, being that we talk a lot about, UNM and the Mountain West Conference. There's other games, but that one is circled for me because it's in Fort Collins. Fort Collins is a great town, but it's, I don't know. I'm excited for that game, but everybody flocked to him, and Jay Norvell just had a confidence. I mean, Braden Fowler Nicolosi had success last year. What, as a freshman or a redshirt freshman? You've got Torrey Horton. We had the pleasure of speaking to Jack Howell. His family is just like athletic, gods and goddesses. His dad won a Super Bowl with the O2 Bucks. He seemed very relaxed. He seemed like a very, he was ready to lead this team to on the field that day. But yeah, I thought Jay Norvell, I agree with you. I thought Jay Norvell seemed very relaxed. My question to you is, Spencer Danielson looked like he was taking it all in, the new head coach of Boise State. I'm older than him, and I don't know, he didn't seem to appear to have deer in headlights type look. We were supposed to have a sit down with him, time permitted. It didn't happen, but did you have the pleasure of listening to him talk? Did you have the ability to talk to him? And what is your outlook maybe on Boise State?
I missed the interview sit down with him, but I did get to go to like when he was speaking where all the reporters were there. But like, as far as him hopping on my show, we missed him, which, I don't know how, but we did. So I didn't get to really, I find it when they can come sit at your booth, it's a little more intimate. You can get a better feel, but when you go out news reporter style and sticking a mic in someone's face, it's not as, it doesn't pay off as well, but still you can still get nuggets from those things. Boise State, I am very excited for Boise State. Obviously, I think if anyone's worthy of the 12-team playoff, the spot for the group of 5 that's looming, it's definitely it would be Boise State. That I feel like based on the past 20 years of college football, they deserve it probably more than any other school. So in that regard, I'm very excited about their possibilities and their future. I need to see it though with Malachi Nelson coming in. I know he was a huge recruit. I'm always paranoid of the freshman or redshirt freshman in this case that's never started any games coming in and playing at a high level. Now I'd feel much more confident. Like we saw Sam Huard leave Washington. He was a 5-star to go to Cal Poly, play in the FCS and the Big Sky Conference. And he did fairly well. Now that I would tend to be all on board on Malachi Nelson going to the FCS level. Mountain West level is a very high level to me. So we still got to prove it to me. Like, I still think though, Boise must've saw something to want him. But that's a big unknown, but everywhere else you look besides that, even though the defense, wasn't the greatest last season, they return everybody on the defensive side of the ball. Ashton Jeanty is a stud that will be in the NFL. And then I thought they did a great job in the portal, aside from Malachi Nelson, bringing in some receivers and really addressing some weaker spots of the team. So they should, and with all the turnover, the coaching turnover, since early July or late June, 2 more coaches added to a conference that had already had with Tedford and the Blake. Just a crazy off season. So what is the stability we have in this conference? It's at UNLV, it's at Hawaii, somewhat a little bit of Boise State and Colorado State. So it makes for a fascinating season, but I think Boise should be the preseason favorites. It's hard. Smurf turf is the hardest place to win, I think, in the Mountain West and maybe even in the nation. And by the way, I forgot Troy Calhoun. Don't want to forget Troy Calhoun.
That was one of the questions that was raised, and I don't know if you and I were talking about it. And then I got to tell you about Barry Odom's story, which was fantastic with the Old Trapper beef jerky. Set up there, which I didn't get any free beef jerky, but because us media members, and I know you've got a different path here. Us media members are like vultures. It's like, where's the free food? But the seniority there with coaches, somebody had kind of mentioned, okay, it's Bronco Mendenhall's first year at UNM. And it seems like the younger guys flock to him. Obviously, you've got Jay Norvell there. You had Jeff Tedford there. Now, obviously, it's different with Tim Skinner. But I was like, well, what about Troy Calhoun? It always seems like he's got his teams ready to go and ready to play. And there's a sense of pride. And we were just talking with Andrew Bauhs of college football tour. I don't know if you've ever heard of him or spoken to him, but he was awesome. He's been to 108 stadiums out of 134 now. But I don't know, Troy. They've got Jared. And last year, I know I'm bringing this back to last year, but the best name one of the best names of a person I've ever interviewed. He was a center, and his name was Thor Paglialong, and I was like, you belong on the offensive line. Just looking at you and your name, it was the best. He was the best interview. But I don't know. Camby Goff. I think he was there as safety. But I don't know. I think Troy Calhoun, he's always got his teams ready to go and ready to play. And I'm just giving you a comment there, but when I was talking, and by the way, I'm backtracking too, Boise State's schedule is at Georgia Southern, at Oregon, then they get Portland State at home. I mean, if they figure out how to win that Oregon game, they have to be in the driver's seat, right? To the 12 team.
For the 12 team, you would think so. Watch out for that Southern game though. Southern, if you haven't been to, Statesboro, Georgia, or Savannah, Georgia, right there, right outside of Savannah, especially in August, it is a different kind of hot. So I think Southern I'll certainly take the points in that game, but I I would think. I mean, if they got Oregon, 100%. I don't expect them to get Oregon this year. I expect them to be in the mix at the Mountain West level, and then I don't know that any group of 5 is going to go undefeated. Maybe Liberty, but I don't know that Liberty's strength of schedule should be compared. Like, to me, a 2 or 3 loss Mountain West team should get the nod and probably over Liberty. Just because the schedule's not much. So what's that?
No, I was going to say I looked at Liberty's schedule the other day and I was like, oh, man, like I don't know if they go undefeated. I don't know if they're going to be in the 12 team playoffs. So I agree with you wholeheartedly there. I didn't mean to interrupt you again.
Oh, you're good, man. But yeah, I mean, that would be, I'm kind of fascinated. But one thing that makes me paranoid as someone that's a fan of the Mountain West, and I hope that I do think it's the very top group of 5 conference. And I would push back on anyone that, and I say this as someone that I'm an East Carolina fan. They are in the AAC, right? I think the Mountain West, now I understand there's some coaching changes, but I still think, with this tie-in with Washington State and Oregon State, I believe their strength of schedule is harder than any other conference in the group of 5. And I hope the committee takes that in and appreciates that. I'm fearful that they won't, because I always feel like there's a bias, that East Coast bias there. And when you see half the committee living in the Eastern time zone, or more than half, I think it is, I wonder how many are staying up late to catch the Wyoming Air Force game or the whatever Mountain West game would be.
No, I feel you there, and I think you're exactly right. And you had those you had those Carolina roots as we were talking, so you understand. I grew up here in Albuquerque, in New Jersey, and I didn't, when I lived in New Jersey and worked out in New York, I did not stay up to watch Mountain West Conference games. I was like, probably half the time I was drunk anyway on Saturday night, so it wasn't my top priority. But
can't blame you then.
No. I would grab a tall boy in Penn Station after being out all night, and that's how I ended my night at the train and Ubering back home to my house. Or walking home. Those were the days that I miss, and I don't know who the hell knows. But at least I wake up feeling like 100% now. You were one of the people, and I remember resonated. And then I talked to some other media members there, and you were one of them. I was like 4 or 5, but you absolutely think that UNM hit a home run with Bronco Mendenhall, and I wanted your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I had kind of forecasted this as a hope. I think, New Mexico football, there's no pro team. I think it should be excelling, and it hadn't been lately. And I was on the show, on my own show, like in the past 2 years, year and a half, I would say, saying we got to get Mendenhall to New Mexico. But I thought realistically that he would probably get, he's a former Oregon State defensive back. I thought that job could be in the possibilities there. I even thought there was a chance they could fire Sataki and he could end up back at BYU, or a Big 12 school could come calling. So when I saw, but I put it out there that I hope I'm not saying I'm the one that made this happen, but I'm saying I wanted it to happen. So when I saw it happen, I was super excited. And I have no ties to the University of New Mexico at all, but I want them to be good. And I think they got their guy to get them. Bronco Mendenhall is a winner wherever he goes. And I really believe in what he does. You know what I mean? So I was surprised he left Virginia at the time he did. But I also understand he's like a West Coast guy. And if you've been to Charlottesville and I think maybe that was some of it of like, I don't know, but I was surprised he took the Virginia job, to tell you the truth. So once again, here he is taking the New Mexico job, which I was a little surprised. Like I said, with Oregon State out there looking for a coach, I was like, oh, they're going to call him home. But I think this is a slam dunk. And I think as a New Mexico fan, you should, anyone listening to this should be super encouraged that you got the guy that I think is going to turn you into a winner. So I am super excited to watch it. Now the question is how fast can he do it? Because obviously it's a project, but slam dunk hire. I honestly think out of all the coaching hires out there this past offseason, I think this would be the best one. I think you could argue maybe one or two in that vein, but how do you not give this an A+ on anyone covering the sport. And in my opinion, if they gave it a B or a C, in my opinion, I wouldn't really trust their, college football knowledge moving forward.
I think Athlon gave it a B+. And, I'm very critical of this program. I have a history with it. It goes back to Mike Loxley. I grew up watching the team here in the late 2000s. I mean, it was, I always reference it on the show. It was the Mike Tyson. Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth. They went on the road. They beat Missouri. They beat Mike Leach and Texas Tech here. They are a UNLV loss away from probably being the 2003 Mountain West Conference champions, which I think a lot of people listening probably forgot that or didn't know. And it would have been a special time. I mean, Rocky Long was the man, but I'm a little jaded, and I try to be objective. I think deep down inside, and I'm not just saying this because you're on, it's probably the correct hire. I'm not happy as a member of the media with how he's acting here and how the department is. I have said that they have the plans for the Death Star, or they're invading Normandy. They don't want anybody to know what's going on. And he doesn't want a distraction. But it's such a unique place because the Pit is, I have a feeling if they lose to Montana State, I don't have a feeling if they lose to Montana State, the first question already on August 24th in Albuquerque will be, when does basketball season start? Have you seen the line for the Montana State game?
I have, and it's continued to creep up. I remember when it was at 4.5, I think, when we were in Vegas. And now it's, I believe, at 8.5 or 9. Doesn't surprise me too much because it is game 1. Bronco Mendenhall is, but I would encourage fans to not ditch out on that, because I love watching, you might not make a bowl this year, but you're going to see a better team week in and week out. And I think it's always fascinating to watch as someone that covers the sport from a all 134 teams and, and the FCS. I love watching, Jerry Kill or whoever take over a program and build that thing up. And you got the guy. Just be patient with him, because they're going to be doing a lot of different stuff, and obviously he's not the type of guy that traditionally uses the portal that often. So it's something, the culture will get built. It's like building a house. The foundation's got to go first. But the 9 points, I mean, Montana State is a very good school. They actually, in my opinion, and I love the FCS. I host the show, the FCS College Football Experience, but Montana State, North Dakota State, and South Dakota State probably should have left the FCS like 15 years ago or 10 years ago. That's how good they are. Montana State's a very good program. And so it doesn't surprise me that they're favored. I thought they would be favored. It is surprising that it got up to 9 to me. I would take New Mexico in the 9, despite, all the turnover going from, Bryant Vincent's offense to Jason Beck's, and, obviously Bronco Mendenhall coming in. I do think there'll be a little more continuity on the defensive side because of obviously Danny Gonzalez, Rocky Long guy, and Mendenhall, Rocky Long guy as well. So I think maybe the defense will be ahead of the offense, but yeah, I mean, I was still surprised that it's 9.
My head exploded. As I just mentioned, I'm using the same term, jaded. And when it got to 9, and I'm like, I almost have to maybe tease this thing up to, if it gets to 10, I would love for you to meet my buddy and who joins us the show, and he's got gambling roots into Vegas, and he was like, wait till it gets to 10 and then take 16.5, tease it to 16.5 and choose something else. But yeah, 9, I don't know. I am borderline now wanting to take it at 9 or 8.5, because I just think that's so astronomical. I understand Montana State can run the ball. That is what they do. Tommy Mellett, the quarterback there. I'm going to have to check out your FCS podcast, because last few years, I've enjoyed watching it more. I love mid-major basketball, all those smaller conferences. So that love for me has grown there for football. And I think the playoff is great that they do in FCS. What do you know about the one thing that is solidified here that is solid is the quarterback here is Devin Dampier. He was a 4-star recruit out of Arizona. What do you know about him, and are you excited to watch him?
Well, I'm excited to watch any quarterback in Jason Beck's system. Now, I know last season at Syracuse, it didn't really work out. Jason Beck is a disciple from Robert Anai, who's a disciple from Mike Leach. who I was very good. Or I don't want to say very good friend. He was a friend of our show, and so I'm fascinated just from the start of anyone that has affiliations with Mike Leach. But I've been following Jason Beck for a while, and I think he's a very good offensive coordinator. What he did with Brennan Armstrong, taking him from a safety to a quarterback, and then I know he's not in the NFL, but I believe he's in the CFL with the BC Lions. Just an unbelievable job there. And Virginia's offense was going with a safety at the quarterback helm, and so and last season, I think Syracuse, they still made a bowl, but obviously Garrett Schrader got injured and they were starting a tight end at quarterback. So they didn't have the depth. I don't think you can really look at it as a failure on Jason Beck's behalf, but Dampier, I'm very excited to see him. And especially with Jason Beck's tutelage. Now the question is how fast can you get that? How fast can you retain this? How fast can you build your offense with him at the helm? Because there is a learning curve to all this stuff. Repetition, with the air raid, timing. I feel like that is going to be the big thing. And I fully expect them to probably not have that for game one or even, a lot of the first month or so of the season, but it's going to be fun to watch. And I like what they did in getting Sanders, Iowa State transfer, right? The running back, Eli Sanders as well. So they have a decent core there. We'll see. When Mendenhall came to Virginia, those wideouts weren't there. He made some good. There's some good wideouts that he turned out there for college football players. I think one of them passed away in the tragic shooting there in Charlottesville. But I'm encouraged. I think he's a very good offensive coordinator, and specifically, he was a quarterback coach pre-Robert. When Robert and I was running the offense at Virginia, Beck was the OC. I'm sorry, Beck was the quarterback coach. In the same situation, I believe, at BYU, and you saw what they did. I mean, Taysom Hill, I can remember him having like 500 yards against the game that got Mac Brown fired at Texas. So I think you got the guy. I think it's going to be exciting to watch. He's only a sophomore. So the question is how fast does he retain all of it, and how fast can you grab that and move forward, which I do think you got to be patient there.
That was a very good answer. I really appreciate that. I don't think their schedule plays them any favors. It's Montana State, at Arizona. They're in Tucson. Then they're in Auburn. Then they come back and they have 2 byes in there. And then they get Fresno State. And then they go to New Mexico State, which I don't know what is going to happen. That's
a win. That's a win. Let's go.
There you go. I appreciate the listeners will appreciate that. His name's Colby Dant. He's from the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, College Experience. I appreciate your time, and I'm trying to stick to it. You started out.
You're fine. You're fine.
If I may ask, you started out as a stand-up comedian, right?
Correct. A long time ago. I've been doing stand-up for what year is it? Over 20 years. So yeah, a long time. And that's actually how I fell into, I always loved college football and college basketball and covered it without a microphone. So it was a very easy process for us to turn this into a show. And we kind of struck gold in a way. We started like a comedian friend of mine had him and two comedian friends of mine had started a podcast called the Sports Gambling Podcast, and they were just doing the NFL on. So it was like, this is in 2011 when podcasting was not, we didn't even know. I didn't even know what it was. You know what I mean? Like in 2011, you're just like, what the hell's a podcast? So I'd run into my buddy doing stand up, and he continuously kept inviting me on this podcast. And I said, yeah, let's go. But he was really drunk one of those times, so I didn't know what to assume. And then after that, I ran into him again, and he's like, dude, everyone tells me you know sports really well. You got to come on the pod. And we did, I then came on the pod, and then after, the NFL show started to develop a little bit, I was like, wait, why are we not doing this? Not only me, I think we all had the same thought at once of why are we not doing this with more stuff? And also like my heart's in college. NFL, like, okay, I'll watch it, but my heart's not there. You know what I mean? So I was like, you guys, let's do college football and college basketball. I can do this, by myself, and then I'll figure it out from there. But also with them on the sports gambling podcast. So that's what happened, and it's kind of turned into a beautiful accident. I never thought I'd make a penny off this. This was just something that I thought, hey, let's have comics talk about sports, and now it's our full-time job. We have a studio here in Eagle Rock, California. And like I said, I think at the beginning, we have a ton of employees, and it's been a blessing in disguise, but it's been awesome. And like I said, from Mike Leach and flying us up to Pullman to getting a call saying Bob Huggins used my notes to break down a defense. It's been a wild ride because I feel like I'm just an idiot, having a beer sometimes. And this is what it's turned into. So I'm very grateful, but that's the backstory on a sports gambling podcast.
Man, you are a pleasure to talk to. I really appreciate your time. I might bug you down the stretch. I know you're a busy dude, and like I said, I've messed up the schedule tonight, so that's my bad. His name is Colby Dant. He's from the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, and you can catch him on the College Football Experience and the College Basketball Experience. But man, I really appreciate talking to you, and I appreciate your time. I don't even know what else to say. I just love how you fell into the profession. And it's something I have you're talking about 2011. I had just finished working for a newspaper, and my buddies and I had started a podcast, and it didn't go anywhere. And now I'm doing this pseudo kind of full-time, borderline more than part-time. And we've grown in a year and a half. We didn't even do anything live up until about 3 or 4 months ago, and we have grown. And I've had the pleasure of talking to a lot of head coaches and players, but I've never been flown up to Pullman. And Mike Leach, that's a great story. I absolutely love it. I really do.
Well, no, thank you. And look, I mean, like I was lucky. One of the things I'll say for stand up was like, if you surround yourself with people that that are hungry, looking for things, that was a lot of the luck. Was yes, we like with stand up, like you just never say no to something. I mean, I've done a stand up at a place that sold mattresses, you know what I mean? Or a donut shop at 7 a.m. So you're just like, yeah, I didn't know what the hell I was getting into, but I knew the same way that I cover college football and college basketball, I was already doing. I was already like, I had a spreadsheet with my brothers and my friends where we would handicap every football and basketball game. So like we were already doing that. It was just a perfect storm. But also like when, like you said, you had a podcast with some friends, but you lost interest. Well, that's very common. I know a million people that have had that. But the difference is, I think, in that I was fortunate that I was in LA, where when you're a comic, you're just looking for whatever avenues you can get. And the fact that we were able to have that, we stayed on the schedule, and we're able to. We were all like, hey, there's no plan B. You know what I mean? Like, this is what we're doing. Besides stand up, it's like, hey, every Wednesday we're recording here. Every Saturday we're recording here. And then it's turned into an every day we're recording. So, beautiful storm. I'm grateful. It had nothing to do. I mean, yes, I'd like to say that I'd never let an opportunity pass me by. I like to think that, but at the same time, it's just been a perfect storm. So a lot of luck at the same time. I mean, like I said, if I was 5 years older, a bunch of other people would have had a leg up on the podcasting world, and I wouldn't have known that. So some of it is complete luck.
I don't want to sound cliche and like one of the, like, I don't know, like a head coach in high school, but it seems like you persevered. I know that's like, that's what I get from it. And I've been more motivated to do this lately, especially as content over the summer. It's like, oh God, we were lucky enough. We were talking college and Albuquerque is a college basketball haven. New Mexico is just a basketball state, and the listeners know that. And we were lucky with some transfers. We had some sad news, and I hate doing that in the news industry, but we were able to talk about that. And then this, thank God the Mountain West Conference football media days were like a week early this year, and we went, and I love going to that. And then, watching, hey, you can talk to Barry Odom. He's just eating beef jerky. That was that story. But the media contact came over. He was like, hey, do you want to talk to Barry Odom? And I was like, sure. Is he busy? He's like, no, he's just eating beef jerky. So, I like here. Yeah, that was the first question. How was Old Trapper? But I don't know, man. I just really appreciate your story from somebody who came in the industry, and it's been like this in my mind. But I will let you get on with your night, man. You were a pleasure to talk to. Colby Dant from the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. I will be in touch, man.
Oh, thanks for having me, and go Lobos. Let's I'm super excited to watch Mendenhall, and I appreciate you making time for me on the show, and I'm grateful.
Perfect. That is Colby Dant. I will wrap up the show here after a quick commercial break.
I dropped the top on the 6th Street. Fly in my ops, see the envy me. Passing it off like CP3. Shawty, she calling me MVP. I be on time, it's something you ain't never seen before. They call me the Dama. Really want my whole team to score. Damn, yeah, too icy. Yeah, too clean. Yeah, my zone. Yeah, 2-3. Yeah, got shooters that hit from deep. Bust like Giannis. Yeah, too mean. Bright lights like we at the garden. On P, don't get me started. Whole team walk through me to party. If I can't make the play, I'ma lob it. If you jump, that's right on your head. Had to put him to sleep, go to bed. I'm a star, drop 50 and left. From the logo, like I'm Steph. Put it up, knock him down every time. Going hard like my life on the line. Catch me on the course, I would've down. Never losing, I put it on mine. Had to get on my shell, I've been laying low. Take it real when it comes to the playoffs. You fight with me, know it's a KO.
Our head coach of our local football program, Bronco Mendenhall.
The details themselves with the right preparation can separate you from mediocre competitors that don't do that. And so, yeah, the attention to detail, I think, drives the execution, or should I say brings the execution to life, especially in critical moments.
Welcome back to the show. I want to thank Andrew Bauhs from College Football Tour. You can follow him at college_FB Tour. Curtis, forgot his name already. Man, I'm tired tonight. Curtis Flakes, the second head coach at St. Pius X High School. I feel really bad. He played UNM, he played football at UNM from 2000 to 2004. I was happy to talk to him again. Rick and I and Nick Nunez are St. Pius alumni. And Rick played football at Pius, as I always mentioned, two-time offensive state lineman. And Colby Dant, I was looking forward to having him on the show. He's awesome. I love his story. Again, he's the host on Sports Gambling Podcast Network. And you can catch him on the College Football Experience and the College Basketball Experience. And he also does a show on VSiN out of the VSiN studio at Circa Resort and Casino. That story, I don't know, motivates me to keep doing this. So hopefully Eric's listening. I'm going to go back to the question of the night, which was more of an answer because we didn't have one tonight.
TNTV for 400.
From 1993 to 2001, Chuck Norris was Walker this.
The answer was Walker, Texas Ranger. We'll probably be back tomorrow night on the show. Thus far, the only guest we have, trying to find somebody else at 8:15 tomorrow night, is Jason Turner from the Logan Herald Journal. We're going to talk about Utah State football and what has gone over there. The firing of Blake Anderson, bringing in former New Mexico State defensive coordinator Nate Drilling. Looking forward to that conversation. We talked to Ike Larson, safety there. He's all preseason Mountain West Conference. He's a fantastic safety. He was a great interview. A lot of confidence. And he could have left and he could have gone anywhere, and he didn't. He stayed at Utah State. I think a lot of those players were forced to, but he had an aura about him that was like ready to take on the season in the conference. So hopefully we can have that interview up to you next week. That point, Stephen, they would be probably 0-4, 0-5, not 0-3. They play Montana State, at Arizona, at Auburn, Fresno State, and then New Mexico State. So again, as I've said, this is an 0-7 team. This is an 0-12 team or a 7-5 team. Want to talk about next week? The guests we've got lined up. the new writer from the Las Cruces Sun News. He will be on to talk New Mexico State. Reporter who covers, I think it's 405 Sports in Montana. He will be breaking down the Montana next week's game week, Saturday's game week. So that Dontrell Moore next week will be live at Turquoise Desert Tap Room on Thursday night. Getting ready for the game. We've got 2 season tickets to give away. Turquoise Desert Tap Room. You can check out our Instagram and Twitter page. Looking forward to that. Love Armando over there. He's great. Again, as I always say, hey, make a bet at Santa Ana Star Casino and Hotel. Drive on over to Turquoise Desert Tap Room. It's a hop, skip, jumping away from there on 528, and have some dinner, have a beer, and watch your bet win. So again, 10 days away. Looking forward to it. We've had another guest who is super high on the Bronco Mendenhall hire. Not sure if it will be this year, but he is building something. And as Colby Dant say, you need a house to build you need a foundation to build the house. So excited for that. Again, always hit us up on Twitter. Follow us on X, formerly Twitter, at the Pit Press NM. We had a guy tweet at us and say he won't listen because it's biased towards basketball. That's not the case. That's not why we made this. This was for all UNM athletics. Follow us on Instagram at the Pit Press NM. Visit our website at thepitpressnm.com. Go to our YouTube channel, like and subscribe. I always forget to hit this. Would be much appreciated. We have grown this thing in a year and a half, and since we've started going live, since basically the NCAA, the 2024 NCAA tournament started, been a lot of fun, and I enjoyed doing it live. It's it's better than podcast form, and you can find us and listen post live episode. So I enjoy that. And I really do appreciate and enjoy all the listeners. And you can find any episode, again on YouTube. Our mailbag is email us at thepitpressnm@gmail.com. We will come to you Saturday morning with our new show, The Morning How, which is dedicated as a UNM pregame football show, 9:00 every Saturday morning. And we will continue that this week and the following week, especially on game day. That'll be probably a big show. I don't know how many people will be watching us on a Saturday morning, but there will be 4 games that day, and UNM is one of them, and Nevada is one of them. So you got a lot of Mountain West Conference action. I want to thank Ricky Thompson. Richard. Got to hit it. Ed Nunez, Nick Nunez, Curtis Flakes II, head coach at SPX, St. Pius X High School, played DB wide receiver at UNM from 2000-2004, Andrew Bauhs of the College Football Tour, and Colby Dant of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. I hope everybody has a great Thursday. Or no, excuse me, we're coming back to you tomorrow. I forgot. I'm getting tired. We'll talk to you tomorrow night. I kept thinking today was Thursday all day. I messed that up. We will talk to you tomorrow night. Have a great night, Albuquerque.
Our head coach of our local football program, Bronco Mendenhall.
The details themselves with the right preparation can separate you from mediocre competitors that don't do that. And so, the attention to detail, I think, drives the execution, or should I say brings the execution to life, especially in critical moments.